Political analyst Jonathan Harris joins us now. Thanks for chatting with us about this as talk of a possible impeachment inquiry in the House gains steam. How much of this is legitimate and how much of it is just pure politics?
So that's the thing. That's the thing that's tough to try to figure out, is whether or not this is something that is even being seriously considered, or it's just kind of throwing red meat out to the base. I mean, as you noted, and some others have noted, this was something that kind of existed on the fringe really up until this week when House Speaker Kevin McCarthy talked about considering doing it. It was something that, you know, representatives like Marjorie Taylor Greene had said they wanted to do, as well as expunging Trump's impeachments, which is really not something that has ever been even thought about before. But now you have Kevin McCarthy talking about it. This is also, Kevin McCarthy had also threatened to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas and AG Merrick Garland as well. So it's hard to know whether or not this is something that they're actually considering. There's not actually a lot of time left for them to do something like this. It was also really interesting to note that when you were talking about the other impeachments that have occurred in the history of our country, these are things that occurred to hold presidents accountable for the things that they did while they were president. This is an impeachment that would be to try to hold President Biden accountable for allegations about something that they are suggesting he did when he was vice president, talking about being involved in some kind of scandal with Hunter Biden and some of his business dealings. So I thought that was really interesting as well, that this wouldn't even be about things that occurred when Biden was president, but rather allegations, unverified allegations about something that occurred when he was vice president.
Yeah, that's a great distinction to bring up there. And as you talk about McCarthy in all of this, why do you think that he's even entertaining the idea when I think it's safe to say, or we can seemingly say, that the Senate would reject this? I mean, there's zero chance in the Senate. Why entertain it?
A lot of it is political theater, definitely. There's always that component to it as well. But when I was looking into this, one of the things that I couldn't really help but think about was the battle to get McCarthy to the speakership, to become Speaker of the House. That was, for the people who followed it, a circus. It was an absolute circus, and it really was, again, the fringe of the party, kind of reminding him in a way that they have a lot of power, that they hold a lot of political power. And so you had Matt Gaetz and people like that kind of holding this up until they felt that they were ready to give him the speakership. And it kind of makes you wonder if that's what's going on here, if it's just a reminder from the fringe of kind of the power that they wield, and if he's kind of bending to that, or if he's just kind of giving it a more legitimizing voice to appease them. I know that the White House has kind of shrugged it off a bit and said that it was up to the Republicans whether they felt that it was worth impeaching him. But a lot of people have pointed out that it also wouldn't be a good idea for some of those members that are up for re-election in some of the closer races where Biden won. It's not necessarily a good idea, and they also always risk ginning up the base, kind of exciting Biden's base, and so it could very easily backfire. So it's hard to tell whether this is a serious discussion or something McCarthy's doing just to appease the fringe.
I mean, I was going to ask you, because any impeachment inquiry, no matter if you view it as frivolous or something that holds merit, would take up a great deal of time on the House floor. And I was going to ask if you saw this as potentially having fallout for Republicans if they move forward. And it sounds like you're saying in some cases, for those who are up for re-election, it might backfire.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that they run the risk of, and it's as you mentioned, this idea that it's going nowhere in the Senate. So even if they were able to make this happen, if even some of the more at-risk House members were willing to do it, it's going to go nowhere in the Senate. So it seems like a bit of a waste of time. I've learned in my time never to make political predictions, so I don't. But I can say that based on kind of history and the circumstances that we have in front of us, it's very unlikely that they would follow through with it. But I put nothing past
you never
McCarthy
know.
And some of the fringe on the right.
You never know. You never know. Well, to that point, what kind of time frame should we expect from the House, one way or another, in 30 seconds?
Well, I mean, I think they're up for very soon, a 6-week break that's coming up very soon. So they really don't have a very large window to get this done. As I was saying before, that McCarthy had threatened to impeach the Homeland Security Secretary and AG, and there's no way that they would be able to pursue that and impeaching President Biden. So they don't have a very large window to get this done.
Time is not on their side. Okay, political analyst Jonathan Harris, thank you for your insight. Appreciate it.